All right, so we're going to look at budgets now, and we've broken it up into a few categories for you guys just to make it a bit easier. So we've done up to 100,000, then up to 150,000, and then over 150,000 to touch on those three categories and what sort of falls into those categories and what you can get.
I think starting with your budget is the first section. Really, knowing your needs, what vehicle is going to suit what you're trying to do. The next consideration, I guess, is your budget. That's all. Yep. If you don't have a budget, well, hats off to you. But breaking it down, as Brent said, so vehicles that we're looking at sort of in the up to 100,000 mark is going to be a 79 series Ford Ranger, BT50, Isuzu D-Max.
Trusty Hilux.
Yeah, Hilux as well.
Yep.
All in dual cabs, and some of the specs that we have, we've based it off sort of the mid-range model. Then we go into that sort of 100 to 150 mark. Now, in reality, a 79 series, on paper it may be $80,000, but to get that car nice to drive, it is going to cost you more than 100. So it is going to stay in the up to 100,000 category. The other one that we're going to throw into the mix is a Chop 300 series, which technically on paper, a Chop 300 may land in the 100 to 150 mark, but in reality, it's probably 150 and above. So
by the time you get your Chop and
GVM and all that kind of stuff. So I think, in my opinion, I think that 300 series should go in the top class, being 150 and above. That's probably realistic. So then in that category of 100 to 150, you're obviously looking at Rams, Chevys, I guess the mid-size US truck. Then obviously 150 and over, we're looking at 2,500 Rams, 3,500 Rams, F250 and 350s, along with Chev 2,500 and 3,500 HDs. So the only other thing that we haven't included in this category, I guess, is the Isuzu MPS truck. So that sort of platform, which is becoming more and more popular, but we're sticking to a dual cab standard Ute. I don't know if it's the type of thing I'd go and get milk and bread in an Isuzu truck. That's also.
Yeah, and look, there's a heap of vehicles as well out there, like the MPS truck that we could get into, and we could sit here for weeks and weeks and talk about it. But we're specifically there, let's say, looking at the dual cab Ute market and what they're going to be good for. And there's going to be a heap of vehicles as well out there, which we won't go too much into. Other vehicles like the MP300 Navara, the Ford Ranger Raptor models as well. Musos and that sort of thing.
Gladiator.
Jeep Gladiator. There is a heap of vehicles out there which just really don't have enough payload to warrant kitting them out like we do.
Yeah, like a Raptor would be a killer touring car, but with a payload of 700 odd kilos. It's got awesome suspension in it, all that kind of stuff, but a Raptor's probably not suitable as a full-blown touring vehicle with a canopy and all that kind of stuff, that's all.
Yeah.
Like even the wagon side of things is another thing we're not covering in this section.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have a wagon for touring, I suppose, but it's that's something that we can look at another time, I suppose. And
potentially,
but I mean, as you said, the dual cab industry is huge in Australia, and that's what we're sort of focusing on.
Yeah, it's massive. Like even when you look at the sales figures, so this was sales up to end of financial this year, so June 30. Ford Ranger, top of the pile, 18,725 units, followed by the Hilux, which was 16,900 units. And surprisingly, in third comes a D-Max, which is 8,810 units. What we do here...
It pretty much reflects that, doesn't it?
Well, probably the least common vehicle that we'd see is a Hilux, to be honest.
Well, yes.
In reality.
And a D-Max is really half the amount of sales of a Hilux. You know what I mean? So
I would say it would be more common. We would probably build 3 times the amount of D-Maxes here
100%
than what we would in Hiluxes.
Yeah,
for sure. I know the Ranger's been slowed up a little bit with availability. That's all with the release of the next gen Ranger. So, but look, some of them sales figures is surprising compared to what we see on a daily basis. But the main section for this is that budget consideration. I think that's one thing that you need to start with. The other thing to consider with your budget is what is going to be the cost of the finished vehicle. So we touched on before about 79 series, right? Now, yes, I think I paid $76,000 for my 79 series in 2014. It cost me a hell of a lot more than 76 grand.
Yep.
So I had upgraded seats and upgraded intercooler and tune and exhaust and everything like that to make that vehicle as capable
Somewhat drivable as well.
Yeah, somewhat drivable. Like the big thing with the 79 series is just, don't get me wrong, they are bulletproof and they are simple, they are basic.
They just work.
They've got a good engine platform, they've got a good drivetrain. Seriously, it's like sitting dead square in that front driver's seat. Mate. It's an experience, and I know there's been a lot of people who have bought a 79 series, done 10,000 Ks, and said, no way, I'm out. And they've sold the car because it just wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So I think considering like even some of the cars that are sitting behind us, you know, a D-Max, for example, as a fully bombed out car with a canopy, wheels, tyres, GVM, bull bar, rooftop tent, the whole box and dice, you're probably looking it's going to cost you the same, if not less, as a bog stock Ram 1500.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're on the road, ready to go.
Ready to go. You know, so I think that's one thing you need to consider with your budget. What do you need to do in the first segment we spoke about, which is setting the vehicle up for what you want to do or your requirements. It needs to be factored into your budget as well.
Yeah,
you know?
How much are you going to spend on accessories?
Yeah.
How much? And once again, what do you actually need in accessories?
Yep.
You know, not necessarily what would you like. Everyone would like every accessory under the sun.
Yeah.
But what do you need for what you're actually going to do?
Yeah.
And
that's right. You know, so even things like we touched on snorkels earlier. I guess Brent and I's car, we don't have snorkels on them. To be honest, I can't see me. I'm about 1,300 mil to the intake on my car. From factory, I can't see me going through a metre deep water crossing with having 300 mil on top of that in bow wave. I can't see it feasible to put a snorkel on my car.
Yeah.
That's all.
And then you get some other cars which you'd almost recommend them if that's the sort of trips they want to do.
That's right.
I mean, for instance, I've just come back from doing the Gib.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you what, some of those water crossings are pretty damn deep.
Yeah.
Like they're over the bonnet deep.
Yeah.
I mean, Tiff's not a small Ranger.
No, that's right.
But, you'd have to sort of, I suppose, it's a definite almost to say you need a snorkel for some of these cars.
Yep, definitely. So that will be the consideration with your budget. Have a look at what the final outcome is or what you need to do to that car to make it suit what you're planning to do.
Yep.
That's all. The other thing with your budget, you may stretch your budget a little bit more to reach a different platform or a better platform that may be better with room in the back for the kids or what have you, and you build that vehicle over a longer period. That's all. I guess might be the missus or the Minister of War and Finance that may not sign off on buying yourself a new Ram or buying the family a new car. And like we have heaps of customers, they might do it in 6 stages throughout the build. That's all.
And I think it's important, I guess, from the very first point to when you walk into the dealership and buy the car, that you know what that 6th stage, or have an idea of what that 6th stage is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point buying a Ram and having a budget of 150 or 200k if you know you're going to have to drop 50, 100k on it.
Yeah.
And even if you are doing it in stages, it adds up. And we see it all the time with accessories, fitments, and we sort of, customers get sort of taken back a bit by a bull bar and lights and a set of like a winch and a set of mirrors is going to cost them.
Yeah.
You know, that alone is probably up around 15k just in that, and it doesn't seem like a lot. So all that sort of stuff is definitely worth considering, like from the get-go.
Yep, for sure. And it should be that massive consideration on what do you actually need to do. That's all. Even on some of the US trucks, it's the same thing. So, you know, the Rams are great, the 1500s are a good towing platform, don't get me wrong, but one of the number one accessories that we fit around here is Ram long range tanks and GVM upgrades. So, you know, even if you do GVM upgrade and a long range tank to a Ram, I think they're a 100 litre tank in them.
Yeah, roundabout, 120 or 95, depending on the model.
You know, so that 100 litres, if you are towing a caravan, for example, you're running 22 to 25 litres per 100 in reality.
Yeah, 20. Well, I get 2,500. 25 litres per 100 out of mine on average. But yeah, anywhere from 23 to 27 litres per 100, and that's a 3-ton van, 20-foot van.
So with a standard 100-litre tank,
yeah,
you got 400k range. That makes it unnerving.
That's very unnerving.
Yeah,
it's unnerving for me.
Knowing that you can't get from here to Geraldton on one tank of fuel. So, as a touring platform, when you look at a Ram, that might be something to consider straight up. Is a long-range tank. Take it to 200 litres so that you get that extra capacity. That's on. I got a long-range tank in my car. It's 230 litres. That recent trip we did to Brizzy, and Cole, the cameraman, he was driving a D-Max. I was skipping every second servo. So I was getting, 1,600 Ks out of a tank not towing. So, and when I am towing, I'd be getting 1,000 Ks easy, if not more. So the last trip we did, I basically drive from here to Carnarvon before I have to fuel up, which is around 1,100 Ks. So they're the things to consider on what vehicle you're actually looking at, and we'll touch on that a little bit more on some of the platforms and what accessories. So bit of a recap, when you are looking at your budget, consider what other accessories you need to add to the car to make it suitable to what you want to do, and you probably need to factor that into your budget.
The top of your piece of fame. All the shots 'cause you're in charge.